Aiden, thank you so much for bringing me to your favourite bar, The Hut in Phibsborough, Dublin.
And Gary, you're welcome.
So,
Yeah.
the one thing I noticed when I was looking through the archives to try and find, because I'm not really in the pub, you realise that this is a green
Yeah.
screen, is that it's always packed to the rafters.
Yeah, very popular pub. I suppose the Hut is synonymous with Phibsborough and the area. And it was a difficult choice to pick one because there's a lot of, and this is a good Dublin pub, by the way. So there's a lot of great Dublin pubs. And I actually was outside it about 2 weeks ago. There was a friend of my son's who was doing a jazz gig upstairs. So we dropped him in I think it was for an hour or so. And I stood outside and says, I remember being in this place so many times during the time that I lived in Phibsborough when I was working in Dublin, my early days, part of my career. And it was our haunt. Great pint of Guinness, great north of Dublin pub. So well worth going to.
Pictures of the Dubs. I see Bohemians there. I see
Yeah.
sport, big part of so many bars. I know people give out now, but so many big TVs on all the time.
Yeah.
But you forget that we all wanted to be in the stadium. But secondary to that, then you could actually have a good pub with a great pint and a big screen. Nothing like it.
Yeah, I think big screens. I can't remember many big screens when I was there. That was way before the day they could actually throw one up with one person. You'd have to have four people putting up a television, but there were proper screens in those days. But no, we were down for the chat, down for the crack. In the evenings, we weren't too far away. We lived up in Connacht Street at the time.
Yes.
So, not too far away from the Bow Stadium. I wouldn't have much truck now with the Dublin jersey, to be quite honest, but we won't go there because
Yes.
we've suffered at the hands of them many, many times in the part of the country I'm from. So
would that be from the place that is 25,000 days or something since you've won in Croke Park?
Was it that many, is it? Yeah.
I heard
the green and red. Yeah. That's a very sore one.
You and Anthony McDermott can have a cry over a few pints over that one. But so you've got rid of me. All those people behind me are gone. Sitting there, Johnny No Mates. The door opens. Who would you love it to be?
This was a lot of people. Someone I'd probably enjoy because I'm a bit of a tech head would be Elon Musk.
Okay.
Just to hear him, what's going on in his head and you could even ask him why he bought Twitter, for God's sake. Try to figure that one out. But probably another person, I listened to a very interesting podcast there about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And there's a guy, he's a cyber criminal. He was the most wanted cyber criminal way back when he was hard at it and so on. But a guy called Brett Johnson. And he was been interviewed by a chap called Lex Friedman. I don't know if you've come across Lex. He's a popular podcaster.
Yeah.
But he just struck me as a guy I'd love to sit down with. He was so much fun. He was very human. He actually cried during the podcast. He got so tangled up in what he was on part of his life. But I just really struck by the guy and how fun he was, how human he was. And I suppose the area he worked his trade, being a criminal and that, but it's so prevalent, the exposure that we're probably, it's not a case of if, but when in the cyber world. And just to tap into all the stuff he did and, what was going on in his head at the time, I think he'd be a fascinating character to sit down with for 4 or 5 hours and have a pint with.
One of the guys by any chance, because a lot of them do, where the poacher becomes the gamekeeper, that they get caught.
Yeah.
They're so skilled that they become what they classify as ethical hackers. They're the reverse.
He is a white hacker, I think they call him. But
white hacker,
white hat hacker. So, but I think Microsoft have him at the moment. So he did go over to the bright side. When you listen to his story, a lot of law enforcement, when they got hold of him, eventually they were tapping his knowledge as to what are his community doing and how are they actually operating and what they're doing. And it's they were on a learning curve with them when they eventually caught up with them. But fascinating character.
Those guys often come out and say there's only two types of companies with regard to data privacy and data securities: those that have been hacked and those that don't know they've been hacked.
Yeah, actually, there was an article in, I think, in the Guardian over the weekend that the Spanish Prime Minister has discovered that they had Pegasus himself and another one of the cabinet discovered on their mobile devices, and the data has been compromised and so on. So how long has that been sitting on their mobile device? God knows. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's a certain arrogance as well, that could never happen to us, until when you've got that inherent arrogance, and also that unwavering belief that we're fine. That's why all great people, and you mentioned Elon Musk and these guys, right to the end, they all remain terribly paranoid.
Right.
They always remain terribly paranoid that there's somebody else coming to eat their lunch, or somebody else. It's not a great characteristic often, but they always want to keep moving and never take anything for granted. And you can never take, it's like getting in your car every time and forgetting on occasion to put your safety belt on. That's what.
Is that a case where they're afraid to stop so they might actually learn something about themselves? And if I keep moving forward and bright, shiny new things, I won't actually have to talk to myself. I won't have to sit in this fine bar here on my own, and discover something about myself.
Listen, you're just after having Elon Musk on one stool and a famous hacker on another.
Brett on the other.
So you're doing okay. Usually people just want Georgie Best or somebody, but you're going right out there. Teach me something. Or can you, in 60 to 90 seconds?
Teach you something.
Yeah. That I don't know. And I can't Google in between when you start and when you finish. Because that.
Well, you could Google this. But this is something I've been kind of working, kind of reading myself over the last few days, and spent quite a bit over the weekend actually kind of digging into it. So it's of interest to me at the moment for professional reasons and so on. But and it's around influence and the dynamic of influence or persuasion, or that kind of we'd say area of power and control. So you can Google it, and probably a lot of it will make sense to you. But there's a chap called Cialdini who came up. He dug into the science of it. He's written a book called Influence. You've probably heard of it. If you haven't, look it up after this. Excellent piece of writing. But they effectively can boil it down to six concepts that you can bring them together, or you can work with them as an individual kind of plank of building your influence or your base. So the first one is very obvious, that people will like you. Yeah. They obviously like your person. They like the way you, I don't know, maybe even dress, and it's maybe it's that kind of attraction to have to you. They like what you say, they like how you carry yourself. Okay. That's one element of it. Second element might be that you're consistent. So things you say you do, you will always do. And you kind of fix to your values. You're consistently delivering, so they know that they can trust you. So I suppose there's an element of trust built around that. Our social proof can be an influencing factor. So, for example, I have an Uni pizza maker that I got for my recent birthday from my siblings. And when I talk about it, and I showed up with it actually my brother asked me to bring it over to a party at the weekend. And of course, everyone sees it and they say, well, they're going to run away and get one, and they're going to tell their friends to get one. So there's a social kind of proof that this is a real good deal. So you're going to be influenced to go away and buy one. The other part is reciprocity, which is I give you something. It can be something big, something small. An expectation is in the future, I can ask you for a favor back, and you feel that, yeah, listen, I did you a good turn. So there's an element of influence in there. Authority, we'd say, or expertise. So obviously someone who's an expert or an authority in an area is someone who will have significant influence on you. And I think the sixth one was scarcity. So if there's a lack of something, you'll be influenced to consider, is it purchasing it or taking it, because there's not many of them around. So maybe if I put this in context of Host in Ireland, I actually thought about this as well. I was reading about, organizations we're involved in, our companies we work in and so on, our industries we're involved in. Yeah. So if you look at Host in Ireland, just consider this. So you set yourself up to be an authority or an expert. The group that we have are experts within the area of delivering, managing whatever parts of data centers. Yeah. There is, I would say, consider yourself. You're kind of a character that's a very likable character. You're fronting up Host in Ireland. I think your likability, Garry, has allowed people it's kind of attracted people to the organization. And within that, you get more characters. So you're kind of building out the other characters that you would tend to be attracted to, and you're going to like the community. in terms of social proof, well, you've got a lot of organizations who are very interested to join because it's a good environment. It's healthy discussion, great debate. It's got a sense of influence in the market. So there's kind of social proof in there. What was the other one? Consistency. I think, there's the quarterly updates. So you're consistently delivering on what the organization is promising. Consistently delivering on, we'd say, aspects around the data center environment and making it more relevant around sustainability, like the DC for bees, the orchards, the planting of trees before that. And scarcity. There's not many organizations like this, which can create such a community that's got a great, we'd say, vibe about it and a real connection to try and drive something that's national in many respects. So I think if you kind of connected all those parts which are scientifically proven as influence, Hosting Ireland is actually leaning on quite a lot of them. I don't know if you're doing this on purpose, but you're definitely doing a good job on this. And everyone who contributes to it are doing a fantastic job to kind of hold it together.
It is quite extraordinary, something that I'm learning, and you were saying you were doing the research and learning, is that more and more stuff now is coming together and having labels that comes semi-natural to you as you can maybe get a little bit older. I'm finding, I remember a fella telling me a million years ago that, of course, you realize that all the mistakes you're making now, one day you're going to call experience. You sort of
a lot of that.
You know what I mean? You corral out and you build wealth on different parts. And what's absolutely amazing what you've said there about that there is a sort of an exemplar of 6 points that maybe Hosting Ireland naturally has gravitated towards. Maybe also it's about trying to do the right thing in the right order with the right people for the right reason. That actually is the only modus operandi that we ever set ourselves. And I think when you filter out all those things, you end up, particularly we're very lucky, aren't we, as a group? We're not driven by a share price, or we're not driven by a particular geography, and that can help because you can be more nimble. But I think more to the point, Aiden, what you've said is it's about the people.
Yeah.
It's about the quality of the people like yourself and the other people that are prepared to give themselves and throw themselves onto the platform and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think it is. Like, it's a community, and even within that, it's culture. And it's very hard to build community and culture. You've been at it, what, 8 years now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But for you, right? So, because this is about you, and this is about sort of sitting in your local pub. And their last little question. So, Elon Musk is after being so magnetic that he's wiped all of your phone except 3 apps.
I knew I shouldn't have invited him.
Well, the other dude,
I would have believed you if you said the other dude did it.
He hacked into it on behalf of Elon Musk. Elon was paying him.
Now I can believe you. Yeah,
So
I think Elon be a bit more ethical than that.
He would. Well, he'd pay for it, but he wouldn't have his fingers on it. So there's 3 apps on your phone.
Let's say BBC Sounds, fantastic app. Yeah, you'd have to choose something like WhatsApp or an instant messenger because you're not going to be able to communicate with anyone. And maybe I'd tell people, my email is moving on to instant messaging, so I'm going to have to figure out how to manage all that noise. You have to keep the camera.
Well, this is a personal choice, you see. So
unless the native apps are allowed to survive, like the telephone itself, you can do the call on the instant messaging thing.
Oh, do you use your phone to ring people still?
I actually do. When I started work, Gary, it was proper work where you did it down the phone. You had a phone on your desk and you rang around. And very quickly, this is in the early 90s, very quickly I figured that if you use this phone on your table, you can actually get a lot of work done in the day. And I spent about 8 hours on the phone every day. And actually during lockdown, I found I was just going back to what I used to do, 30 years ago? Just pick up the phone and start ringing people. So it was kind of great getting into that kind of groove again. But
it's extraordinary. We're just back from one of our bigger trips of the year away, where people go away and meet other people from other places. And honest to God, when I say they were giddy goats, people were giddy goats just to be beside each other and going back to, like, in the hut where you'd see a fella across the room or a girl across the room, you could actually walk over and say, how's it going? What's the story? Bit of banter, bit of BS. You go away, and there was a certain buzz about it. Aiden, it's been a pleasure.
Very good, Gary. Listen, it's great catching up with you.